Lara Trump, who is the daughter-in-law of President Donald Trump, is making waves in political circles right now, with speculation swirling about her potential Senate run in 2026 in the state of North Carolina. The big question, is she going to gear up for this challenge for the Senate seat, or is this just the hype? She's a prominent figure in the Republican Party, and Lara Trump's name carries a lot of weight, especially after her role in the Republican National Committee and her vocal support for conservative values. The question of a 2026 Senate bid has sparked a lot of debate, and it also is kind of like a flashback. It's almost like a little jump back in time to 2021, when we felt like this was all happening before. Take a step back in time to 2022. At that time, incumbent Senator Richard Burr announced that he would not seek his re-election in 2022. He would not run again. He was a three-term senator. Obviously, at that time, Ted Budd, a representative for the Republican Party, and the Supreme Court, the Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court Justice, Sherry Beasley, was the Democrat nominee. But in the Republican primary, there was a lot of speculation around whether Lara Trump, who was seen as a very possible candidate for the seat, would run. She received a lot of encouragement and support from U.S. senators like Lindsey Graham, people like Kelly Conway, and former Trump White House officials have reportedly been pushing her to run. An early opinion poll suggested she would perform well against other prospective candidates in the primary. Now, on April 14th, 2021, former Governor Pat McCrory announced that he was going to run, and U.S. Representative Ted Budd also announced he was going to run. McCrory was obviously the disgraced former governor of North Carolina. Republicans feared they would lose this seat if he was the nominee. They needed someone else. Obviously, Ted Budd became the nominee, but this is kind of like taking a little step back in time right now. And now, with incumbent Senator TIllis announcing that he is not going to run for re-election in 2026 after voting against the one big beautiful bill that is being pushed through Congress through the reconciliation process, announced he's not going to run. That really opens up the Republican field. And it's going to be a blockbuster election. This is going to be a nail-biter. It's going to be a tight election. Democrats and Republicans are going to pour millions of dollars into this race. But now, Lara Trump, she was born in North Carolina. She's a North Carolina native. She went to North Carolina State University, got a bachelor's in communications. And although she is married to Donald Trump's younger son, Eric Trump, she has been a very visible figure in Republican politics, serving as the co-chair of the Republican National Committee during the 2024 election cycle. And her leadership at the RNC has earned her a lot of praise from people inside the Republican Party. GOP insiders believe she helped deliver results. She did a much better job than Ronna McDaniel ever did. Reached out to new voters that they had never been able to reach out to before. But now she hosts a show on Fox News, which kind of blends political commentary with some cultural takes, really boosting her national profile. And like we said, she's no stranger to the Senate speculation, so she's really going to consider. We remember back in 2022, the big deal that she had was that she had young kids. She had a 1 and a 4-year-old at that time. She did not want to put her kids through that. You can understand that. Now her kids are a little bit older. Maybe this is a move she's looking to make. Maybe it is. To replace the moderate Republican TIllis, who really clashed with President Donald Trump over things like the major tax cuts and spending bill, drawing criticism from people in the conservative base and a threat from Donald Trump to back a primary challenger to him. Obviously, like we said, he stepped aside, opened the door for a high-stakes 2026 Senate election, with North Carolina seen as one of the few competitive races that could influence control over the Senate, which ultimately, the Republicans are going to hold the Senate. Let's get one thing straight. Republicans are going to hold the Senate. Even if Democrats hold Michigan, pick up North Carolina, pick up Georgia, pick up Maine, they're still not in the majority. Let's not kid ourselves right now. Democrats, it's pretty far out of reach. But I'll tell you what, it'd be a lot worse position. You can neglect one vote. You can only lose one vote in the Senate. And remember, President Donald Trump has a lot of influence in North Carolina, where he won by 3 points, won by 1.5 points in 2020. It was the one swing state that he won all 3 times and won by almost 4 points back in 2016. Now, Lara Trump confirmed that she is seriously considering a Senate run, telling Fox News that the opportunity is fresh but viable given her North Carolina roots. President Trump called her his first choice, praising her RNC leadership and deep knowledge of the state, though he noted she lives in Florida with a very good life there and things would have to change if she were to be a senator. Now, polls suggest that Lara Trump would dominate in a GOP primary. And I mean dominate. This was a poll taken back in November, beating TIllis by 50 points. 50 points. Now, we don't have any new polling inside of the Republican primary as of right now, but even CNN's Harry Anton reported on June 30th that betting markets are giving her roughly a 50% chance of securing the GOP nomination, far ahead of any other political candidate in the race. Her name recognition, the Trump family backing, alignment with America First policies could clear the GOP field, avoiding a messy primary that we've seen in past North Carolina Senate races. However, Lara has cited personal factors like time with her children as considerations that held her up from running in 2022. Now, on the other side, there's another Republican, her actually co-chair for the Republican National Committee, Michael Whately, has also considered running. But it's basically been said if Trump wants Lara Trump to run, she'll get the nomination. Whately praised her for her work at the RNC alongside him and is reportedly interested and may stay in his current role if President Trump asks, but this is definitely something he is considering. On the Democrat side, like we said, we have Roy Cooper. Hasn't announced yet, but he is probably the most formidable Democrat that could be in this race. You have Wiley Nickel, the U.S. representative, former U.S. representative, the only Democrat who's in this race as of right now. But there's a couple things that I think you should take a bigger picture view of right here. If Lara Trump runs, her candidacy could solidify Trump's influence over the GOP, but I also think there's a risk here. Remember, North Carolina is a state that only voted for Trump by 3 points. This is not a state that's voting for Trump by 20 points, 30 points, 30 points. Well, there's 45 points in Wyoming. You cannot just nominate the most conservative person you possibly can find. You can't. You need to find someone who has broad appeal with independents, appeal with moderates, appeal with the moderate side and the more conservative side of the Republican Party. You need to find someone who can bridge that gap right there. Someone who is media savvy, who has experience, who's a strong campaigner, who can fundraise like there's no tomorrow. But you need to be careful. And I think Lara Trump, it's all about how she frames herself. How does she market herself in this election? Remember, Donald Trump does not have a good track record when it comes to these very conservative MAGA Republicans in close elections. He just doesn't. Look at Kari Lake in Arizona. She ran 7 points behind Trump in this election. Go back to 2022. Blake Masters lost to Mark Kelly by 5 points in Arizona. Mehmet Oz loses to John Fetterman. Raphael Warnock beats Herschel Walker. It's like, come on. You also look, okay, Kelly Loeffler, she was a terrible choice to be the nominee, and that's Brian Kemp's fault, honestly. But still, bad candidates produce bad results for the Republican Party. When are people going to get that through their frickin' head? Get this through your head. Bad candidates do not do anything good for you. Loyalty should not be the only thing that we're looking out for here. It should not be, especially in a state like North Carolina. You need someone who can be independent, who has appeal to independents, who has the appeal to moderates. Because the 2026 election will be pivotal for Senate control in the future. And with Republicans defending a slim majority, Democrats do face a tough map, but still, it's a slim majority. In North Carolina is a rare toss-up race. Look, she could galvanize Republicans and conservatives because she'll also face scrutiny over her Florida residency. She would need to prove that she can have appeal beyond the GOP base in this swing state. Those are big things. I think that needs to be tested. She needs to be stress tested. Can she appeal to more moderates, to more independents in this race? Because if she loses, like many did in the 2022 or 2024 cycles, it'll show Trump has influence over GOP primaries. He does not necessarily have influence over every single general election. Just because he gives a nomination doesn't really mean much in general elections if they don't have good candidate quality. Like, sorry. That's just the reality here. That's the simple reality of this world that we live in right now. And you may not like it, but that's where we're at. But Lara Trump's possible Senate run in North Carolina is one of the biggest stories heading into the North Carolina 2026 Senate election. Her ties to the Trump family, her RNC track record, and North Carolina roots could make her a formidable contender. But the road will not be easy. Trump's endorsement will fire up the GOP base and could reshape the race, but Democrats like Roy Cooper, like Wiley Nickel, are ready for the fight. So let me know, what are your thoughts? Do you think Lara Trump should run for the Senate? Drop your thoughts down below in the comments and let me know what you think about this. As always, drop down below, smash that like button, smash the subscribe button. Make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future, and folks, we will catch you next time.